Hey gang, Steven here with another new album review. Today we're going to be talking about the new album from a psychedelic progressive rock band from Vancouver, British Columbia called Black Mountain. Black Mountain have been around since the early 2000s and they're pretty much the brainchild of songwriter, guitarist, vocalist, band leader Stephen McBean, and I didn't really get into them until the 2016 album called 4, and that made me a huge fan because that was one of my favorite albums of the year. The album is a sprawling psychedelic tour de force. It's such a great listen. It's sort of a retro sounding album without really sounding retro. It's got all the best elements of the sort of psychedelic progressive rock that you would kind of want, especially if you're just a regular old rock and roll dude like me. Now, the newest offering from Black Mountain came out on May 24th, and it is called Destroyer. And this album, so far, I've listened to it a few times, and it is such a well-crafted album. It's more of a tighter package than the previous album. It's a lean 8 songs, 43 minutes, but there's not a dull moment in this album. It is full of fuzzed out guitars and keyboards, and it's very epic sounding while still sort of like reining it in and making a little cohesive album here. But it's got just enough psych for the psych fans, just enough rock for the rock fans. It's got the best of both worlds. Now, just in case I might be losing you a bit with the whole psych rock thing, let me tell you that these guys do it right. It's more of a mature psych rock sound. Like, I'm not really into the modern psych rock bands because they all remind me of those people that you met. They're in their mid-20s and they all feel like they really need to be listening to the Velvet Underground, and they constantly overanalyze Pet Sounds, and most of them will tell you their favorite album is Loveless by My Bloody Valentine, and they end up making music that just sounds like they bought a guitar yesterday and learned how to turn the reverb all the way up. So, but no, this is not what you're getting here. You are getting great psychedelic rock and roll that almost sounds too modern to be retro and too retro to be modern. It's kind of like Stephen McBean is actually from the 70s and he somehow time traveled to 2019 or the 2000s, collected just enough information as he could from the current modern music and current modern technology, and then he went back in time to the 70s to record an album, and when the album was done, he travels back to now to deliver it to us. And I'm sure somewhere in there he's got to make sure he gets the sports book from Biff before he can, go ruin the world. But, I think he knows what he's doing. But since we're talking about my vinyl copy of this album, let's take a look at it. So here's the inner sleeve, which is the pretty thick cardboard, which I really like. And then look at this. You got this nifty white vinyl. Looks very classy, and that's kind of a good way to describe their music. It's classy, progressive, psychedelic rock. It's full of big rock riffs and keyboards. The keyboard sound that back in 1975 it sounded futuristic, but now it just kind of sounds cool. And if I was going to compare it to something that I think everyone out there might know, it's kind of like the Black Sabbath era of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, where they were adding in some keyboards and a little bit more of a progressive element. It's like that. It's still got the riffs, but it also is a little bit weird at times. I mean, by the second track, Stephen McBean has decided, you know what, I think I'm just going to do all these vocals through a vocoder and make it sound ultra fucking weird. But it's got like pretty much everything you would want from a psychedelic rock album. Now you can go out and listen to the first 2 singles they released, which was Future Shade, which is a really straightforward rocker, or the more sort of groovy Boogie Lover. But really, I don't think just listening to one of those 2 songs alone is going to give you what this entire package gives you. It's such a, like I said, cohesive album. There's even a point where one of the songs that's more of a mellow version of that song on side A, all of a sudden on side B, that song comes back with the more rockin' version of that song, and it just sounds like everything's come full circle. And then at the end, what's the name of the last song? It is FD72. FD72, I think it's about David Bowie. But not only that, it sounds like a David Bowie song from the Berlin era, if you know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't sound like they're trying to be Bowie. It sounds like they're paying tribute to Bowie, and I love Bowie. So that's a really great way to wrap up this album. So stop listening to me and go out and listen to Destroyer by Black Mountain. Who knows? This one could end up in my top 10 by the end of the year. I have no idea, but so far, I'm really fucking digging this record. So go out and listen to it. Or if you already have, let me know down in the comments what you think about this album, what you think about this band. I think it's pretty fucking great. Anyway, that's really all I got to say about this one. I hope this was informative and turned you on to something new. And yeah, I will see you guys on the next one.